Hi everyone, I'm Perry. Welcome to Living Your Best Life with Eddie Stone, founder and CEO of Touchstone Essentials. Hello Eddie, how are you?
I'm doing great, Perry. So nice to have a chance to see you this evening or your morning
Yes, my
and
morning.
have a chance to connect with our audience. It's been a couple of weeks, and so it's nice to be able to do this.
Uh-huh. So can you update us, not only us who Thailand and America, maybe other people from other countries watching too. So how is exactly situation in your country now?
Well, unfortunately, we had a real surge with the virus in New York and New Jersey, sort of the north um, eastern part of the United States when it first began, and I think that was probably all over the news, all over the world, where people saw that, and a lot of death and a lot of tragedy. But as that subsided and states locked down, the situation got better. However, as spring began and then summer, there were some holidays there, and some of what I would call our warmer weather states opened up to allow people sort of get back to living their lives, allowed some businesses to open up, particularly restaurants and bars and things like this. And, in looking at the numbers today, that did not go well, whether that's because the rules were too loose or, whatever those factors were. We now tragically have over 150,000 people that have died from the virus. So it's a tragic, tragic number. I think there's probably only 3 or 4 countries that have a higher level of death against the size of their population than we do. So it's heartbreaking, and it's sort of heartbreaking every day. And seems like the more it goes on, you wind up being closer and closer to people that have become sick, or people that have become sick. My own son, who's 25 years old, lives in a different city. He tested positive. Now he's young and healthy, so he had a few days of a fever, some aches and pains, and he lost his sense of smell. But he seems to have come through it, which you would think, right? Young people have a very low percentage of them that have a long-term issue with it. But some of the things we see about old folks' homes, there was just a group of nuns in Wisconsin that lived together, and I think of like 15 of them, they're older women, 13 have died. So it continues to be a tragic situation. And, right now, I think the best thing we all can do is try to pay attention to the general rules of social distancing, if it's appropriate, wearing a mask, and trying to take care of yourself as, we would hope, right? I'm hopeful that the healthcare system will figure out some answers. I know that even having a vaccine is controversial for a lot of people. I'm going to have my eyes wide open and make sure I know, what's in a vaccine, but I'm not opposed to the idea if it helps out with the situation. So, and unfortunately, the U.S. isn't the only, country dealing with these terrible issues. So I guess I'm thankful. Have you ever read much about the pandemic of 1918 and 1919?
Mm-hmm.
So I am thankful that the death rate, probably because of modern medicine, and it's a different type of virus, is not so high. But this is a real eye-opening situation, isn't it? About taking care of your health and paying attention to how nature integrates with mankind and all these other sort of larger issues. I'm sure over the next 10 years, there'll be countless books and studies and things, some of which may not be instructive, but there'll be some that we can learn from this.
Mm. So from now on, we should stay healthy, right?
We should stay healthy, Perry. That's exactly right. And we've seen as a company our highest demand ever. So, I mean, I'm a businessman, obviously I like that. But the one thing that tells me is because in general, health-related businesses are really seeing a surge in demand. It means people are at least paying attention to that, right? They're trying to think more thoughtfully about diet, exercise, habits, and things of this kind. So maybe one of the positive out of all of this is a little more thoughtfulness about self-care, sort of the whole idea of mind, body, soul, and we'll end up with a population either because they're scared or they're genuinely inspired to try and improve their day-to-day health. That's not going to happen for everybody, but maybe that'll be one attribute for some of the population.
Okay, great. So today, what are you going to share with us, Eddie, about health?
Well, I was looking back over some of our subject matters, and so I'm trying to think of things that allow us to build on what we've been talking about. We've talked a lot about immune, and we've talked about respiratory health, quite a bit. And there are definitely some overlapping themes, right? If anybody watching this, some of the notes are going to be applicable for almost any situation. But I thought today we would talk about how to support your circulatory system, your cardiovascular system. We speak specifically often about cardiovascular disease. And in that, though, I think mostly what people think about is what's going on with your heart and heart health. Are you vulnerable to a heart attack? How about your cardiac function and output and some of these types of issues? But maybe what we don't specifically talk about often enough is the vascular system, the network of vessels that you have in your body that essentially tie everything together, right? From the heart to the lungs, to the liver, to the brain, everything functions off this flow of blood and this exchange of oxygenated blood, right? So, when you breathe in, your body has systems to ingest that oxygen and process that oxygen into your blood, right? And so that's sort of the blue blood there. And as it circulates the body, slowly that oxygen is taken out of your blood, and that becomes sort of the red return blood in general terms. This is what keeps us alive, right? That oxygen is a part of the system that keeps us alive and going. And people don't necessarily realize how big it is. So you've got 100,000 miles. I don't know what it is in kilometers. I wish I did. 100,000 miles of network of blood vessels in your body. Now, all right, so let's look at how big that is. If you look at the circumference of the Earth, so if you jumped on an airplane, Perry, in Thailand, and took off and circled the Earth and came back around and landed again in Bangkok, right? You took off from Bangkok, you would have traveled 25,000 miles. So in your body is 4 times that length of blood vessels on average, right? We have to speak about sort of the average human being, some less, some more. So you got to circle the Earth 4 times just to do that together. And you need that because there are large blood vessels, small blood vessels, they're operating and doing different functions, but they tie heart, lung, they tie everything together, and they transport oxygen, they transport nutrients, different types of cells throughout the body, including your immune cell, and hormones, and they really are creating this exchange like a highway of fluids. Maybe that's one way to think about it. Into just about every cell in the body. Not every cell in the body is connected to the vascular system, but just about every cell. So clearly this is vital and important. And thinking about the health of your blood vessels is really critical, because if you're not thinking about it and they become clogged or brittle, it places strain on your heart. It can increase your blood pressure. And, then we get into sort of really life-threatening issues with blood clots. I mean, you've probably heard before people that have flown on airplanes, particularly long-distance flights, that they're not in great shape. The way they sit, they get blood vessels that get cramped, they get clots, thrombi, and they can die, right? If you throw that clot and it blocks the oxygenated blood flow to the brain, you have a stroke. So this is all important. And what I tell people is, when you think about your blood vessels, think about it in really practical terms. You want to nurture through your nutrition, through lifestyle, diet, exercise, things we're going to talk about. You want to nurture it so the blood vessel is healthy, and that means that it's flexible. And so the pumping action of your heart. So, if you put your hand over your heart and you think about the heart, the bottom of the heart is where we're going to empty out when it beats. We're going to empty out this sort of rush of blood, right? And so the heart contracts and it shoots this blood out. And when it does, it creates, almost think about it like a wave of blood. And that blood needs to be able to expand that blood vessel at the bottom of the heart, right? So it's going through the body. And if it can't expand it, right, if that blood vessel is restrictive or brittle, then that's what creates pressure, unwanted high blood pressure. So when you're young and your vessels are soft and supple and they expand, think about like a garden hose in the middle of the summer, a warm summer day in the sun. A garden hose, very pliable, you know, and it can expand and contract easily. But what if that garden hose is in the wintertime and it's brittle, right? It won't expand and contract. It's hard to bend around and water the garden and do things. That's what happens with your body over time, you know, as you get older, if you're not sort of mindful of these issues. So let me give you some things to think about. And the first one won't seem obvious, but it plays a big role in this, and that's the quality of sleep that you get. Because the body, when you're sleeping, particularly if you're sleeping deeply, uses that time to repair itself. Quite literally, sleep doesn't just have a function to rest your brain, it also serves a purpose to rest you physically. And then you have enzyme systems inside your body that sort of act as this repair mechanisms, all very sophisticated, right? I'm breaking down a really sophisticated thing into simple terms, but sleep is important. And so we know, statistically speaking, that people that don't get enough sleep, people that sleep erratically, are individuals that often have high blood pressure and other problems, including a stiffness of the artery wall, which then creates this strain on the heart. It can damage the cardiac muscle, right? And so it no longer functions like it should. It can create an enlarged heart. And so these things all sort of, you know, they accumulate in their impact. And so quality sleep, if someone's taking notes, it's sort of the first note to think about or to take is to think about the quality of sleep. Number two is exercise. And I hope no one listening to us is surprised for me to say exercise, right? Because we do think about that in terms of cardiovascular health, but particularly as you're exercising and the vessels are expanding and contracting, there are certain enzymes and other chemicals that are emitted in this process that do help to support a soft, supple, flexible, vascular system. And so it's got a lot of different things, and a good exercise routine will improve blood flow without increasing blood pressure, right? You want to see good blood flow without increasing the pressure. And if you've got high blood pressure and you've never exercised and introduced an exercise routine, very often you'll see your high blood pressure go down without having to use medication. And then the other critical benefit is that it can improve blood sugar spikes. It helps in the regulation of blood sugars. And so it can play a role, because if you have a diet that's got too much refined sugar in it, and you've gone to a medical doctor and the doctor says your blood sugar numbers are too high, that can also lead to a stiffening of the vascular wall. So it can contribute to the development of stiffness, even plaques in the arteries. You often just think about that as being associated with fats, but that's not true. Excess sugars can sort of create this same type of issue. And so exercise, a lot of people don't realize this, will improve insulin sensitivity and create an environment where you're better able to control what blood sugars you have, or blood sugar in general, and also the spikes and fluctuations that can come from it. When we think about exercise, particularly in the West, United States, Canada, even if we talk about Western Europe, people tend to think of things that are vigorous, right? Running, jogging, lifting weights, swimming, things of this kind, which are great, but not always easy, particularly as you get older, and not always something that people understand. In the East, there are individuals that certainly understand this, and so there's all types of things that's enjoyed in the East that you see some of it here in the States, but not very often, like Tai Chi, which are slower, less forceful movements, but can really accomplish the very same thing, from a control of blood sugar, from a control of blood pressure, even the development of muscle, right? It's just a different way of taking the approach. And yoga is also one of those. We think of that as being sort of India type of thing, although it's done all over the world. Yoga is terrific, right? And for individuals that oftentimes, you know, you hear this concept of mind, body, soul, yoga can just be terrific in terms of your mental clarity, dealing with stress or better managing stress. And physically, it can reduce the oxidation, of blood lipids. So it means that things like your cholesterol and other fat factors inside the blood aren't as sticky, and you don't want that. It can help to relieve blood pressure. So there's all kinds of positive things, including better control of LDL cholesterol, which is your bad cholesterol, right? So HDL is your good cholesterol, LDL is your bad cholesterol. So the reason I bring that up is whenever I mention movement and exercise, a lot of times people gloss over on me because they don't see themselves going to the gym and jogging. That's not all there is to it, right? Good walks in the wood and yoga can likewise be beneficial. Now, the third thing, so if we're taking notes, right, the first one was quality of sleep. The second one was to look at movement and exercise. The third one is to make sure you're getting plenty of antioxidants in your diet. And so what I'm saying very clearly to everybody listening is you need to be eating your fruits and vegetables. The more colorful they are, the better. The less prepared they are, the better. The less sugary they are, the better. And you want to eat them as much in whole form as you possibly can, right? So you want to have the apple more so than you want to have the apple juice because of all the impact of the sugar. And this is, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of compounds that are found in fruits and vegetables that are good for us for just a variety of reasons, a lot of micronutrients that are there. But in general, it's because of the antioxidants that you find in fruits and vegetables that help to neutralize the free radicals. And free radicals damage the DNA, they damage the vascular wall, they are damaging to the vascular system. Now, if you don't like fruits and vegetables, then you need to find a good substitute. We have our super green juice, which is 44 different organic fruits and vegetables, but there are other alternatives to that. I don't think they're as good or as good a price. I'll give a plug for our products. The bottom line is you need to get fruits and vegetables some way. There's not a real clear substitute otherwise, and you can't just get away with taking a medication to solve the problem or even a simple vitamin. You need more than that. You need whole food sources because there's all kinds of compounds found in whole foods that just aren't found in, say, a multivitamin. And again, this is critical because if free radicals aren't managed, dealt with, and neutralized, not only do they damage the blood vessel wall, they oxidize blood lipids, making them much more sticky and you much more likely to have a heart attack. So that's sort of number 3 there, is to eat your fruits and vegetables. Number 4, and for those that watch our work here on this show, you're not going to be surprised, stay away from toxins. Stay away from toxins. They have almost the same type of impact that we think of with free radicals related to, say, fruits and vegetables, because it causes oxidative stress inside the body and it causes inflammation, which increases cardiovascular risk and reduces the effectiveness of your blood vessel structure and how it works. And so things like arsenic, lead, cadmium, even excess amounts of copper, volatile organics, all these things that we think about. Phthalates. Phthalates is people don't realize how often you find phthalates not only in personal care products, but in packaging that prepackaged food comes in, and it's migrated into your food supply. So just like people are leery of BPAs that are found in plastic bottles for water and things of this kind, phthalates are an issue. And so the bottom line is there's almost incomprehensible amount of toxins out there that we want to try to avoid. We know that firefighters, for example, are more prone to having heart attacks because of the amount of chemicals they're breathing in associated with being a firefighter. Although they're wearing a mask in the scourge of the fire, they're around the smoke all the time. In cities, counties, towns where there are wildfires, we know that heart attack rates go up, in part because of the toxins people are breathing from the smoke. And so toxic exposure is an important thing to manage and deal with. I encourage people air filtration, water filtration, clean food, organic food, things like this, but also the greens, right? Super green juice. Greens will help your body, aid your body in detoxification. And of course, our Pure Body Extra Strength, that's the best global zeolite product, nano zeolite product in the marketplace today, bar none. I say that with all confidence in the world. That should be a part of everybody's routine that's concerned about these issues. And so number 4 is really to think about toxins. And then number 5, we actually talked about this about 6 shows ago, but not in this subject matter, is refined vegetable oils. I think people oftentimes think that refined vegetable oils, or they see the word vegetable oil and they don't think about it being refined, is okay because it's not animal based. But when you're talking about canola corn, soy, even avocado oil, right? Avocado's got a great reputation for being heart healthy, but that's the avocado, not the refined oil. Those oils are often oxidized and refined and denatured so that the positive attributes they have are now gone. The long chain triglycerides that were there that are heart healthy because of oxidation become short chain triglycerides. They're more sticky. And of course, a lot of those oils are very high in omega-6s, which also contribute to inflammation in your vascular system. So here's the bottom line. Vegetable oils, refined vegetable oils, are just terrible from a cooking prep standpoint because of the inflammation they create in your body as you consume them. So when you're frying food, right, you're heating up oils, frying it, it's infiltrating the food that you're about to eat. Just know that that is not good for your body. You know, I mean, if you've taken the time to say, I'm going to eat some fresh fruits and vegetables, then you turn around and fry them, not a good strategy. That's just not going to work. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And if you've read otherwise, you've read wrong, because it becomes rancid, increases the omega-6 in there. And so you want to really think about these things. And there's plenty of substitutes. You know, you can look at organic coconut oil, right? Unrefined, unfiltered organic coconut oil, grass-fed ghee, which I know is very popular in Asia, even cold-pressed extra virgin olive oil. These are much, much better alternatives. And I understand about oil because if you think about food when you eat it, you've got a subject matter called mouthfeel, right? And that's, you know, even before we sort to talk about taste, it's how does it feel in my mouth? And one of the reasons that fat is so popular is it feels good. It's satisfying. It's not watery, right? We tend to not enjoy things that are watery. We tend to enjoy things as human beings that have a thickness to them in terms of mouthfeel. And oils and fats give you that. So if you're going to eat them, though, it's really important to try to eat the ones that are healthy. There's a German scientist that wrote a book called Fats That Kill and Fats That Heal, named Udo Aronimus. And this is a great book. Now, it's a long book on this pretty tight subject that some might find boring. But the bottom line is, if you're really into your health and you really want to learn about these things, it's a great book to read, and will help to educate you, on sort of some of these subject matters. And so just to review where we're at so far, we're talking about thinking about exercise, quality of sleep, fruits and vegetables, toxic exposure, refined oils. And the last thing I'll mention, and I got a couple bonus things to throw in there, are proteolytic enzymes. And so proteolytic enzymes can be plant-based or they can be animal-based. We prefer plant-based, but you can find those. They're tiny little molecules that help the body better digest proteins. And when that occurs, your red blood cells are not as sticky, they function better, and it controls inflammation in your vascular system. We have a product called Green Energy, but there are others in the marketplace that can be a supplement for somebody that says, you know what, my diet's just not great because of my lifestyle, I can't control it very well. And so a proteolytic enzyme can be a good vascular supplement to take. And then the last couple of things I mentioned is water in two parts. One, and we mentioned this 2 shows ago, is talking about drinking plenty of water, because when you're dehydrated, your blood literally becomes thicker. It's more sticky, and your risk of having a heart attack while dehydrated is much higher. It's probably obvious to everybody, right? When the body's dehydrated, it just does not function as well. The immune system doesn't function well. Your energy level's low. You don't sleep well. There's just all kinds of things kind of go wrong. So staying hydrated with good, clean water is a good idea. But there's another thing you can do with water, except in this case, it's not water you're consuming, and that's hydrotherapy, hot and cold hydrotherapy in the shower. Believe it or not, this really has a lot of wonderful science behind it, a lot of research that basically says that hey, if you're really trying to be healthy and you're older and you've got some circulatory issues, one of the things you can do is you can get in the shower. And now one thing to think about is if your municipal system has chlorine in the water, you might get a shower filter, so you're not breathing a bunch of excess chlorine gas. But you turn that shower on as about as hot as you can stand it for a couple of minutes, and then shut that down and go to it being about as cold as you can stand it for a couple of minutes. And when you do this back and forth, maybe 4 or 5 times, always finishing on the cold, it causes a chemical reaction in the body that softens the blood vessel wall, improves circulation. So just a little external trick. And all of these things matter. Collectively, they add up to having a great impact on your health. But even if you just adopt one, right? Let's say you're slow on the uptake, right? Even just adopting one of these things can improve your vascular system, and your vascular health, your cardiac health, your immune system, your respiratory system. These are the things that give you the vitality as you age, and give you the energy and the immune system to fight disease and the things that we think about. So the reason I like to talk about it in these terms is when we're saying to people, hey, try to do your best to eat well, let's give them a reason to, right? And understanding this, I think, gives people a reason. So that's why I wanted us to tackle the vascular system tonight.
It is very interesting. And these days here in Thailand too, people are talking and taking more about enzyme food too, because like the food we eat, we need something for our body, to digest well, to get healthy too. It's like important. We cannot miss it too now these days.
You can't. And your body makes enzymes. It makes all types of enzymes. Some repair the body, some help to digest food. But if you eat mostly a cooked food diet, then your body has to produce excess enzymes that are for digestion and not repair. That's a bad thing. And when you heat the food, the native enzymes in the food that may break it down denature and become compromised and no longer really are there and available after probably about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. So if you can stand to have some of your food be raw, it'll help you with enzymes.
Mm-hmm. Recently, I've been watching many shows about cells and body organs. It's very complicated, but thank to you that you bring to us, make it simple and easy to understand, and how to take care of our health and body. That's perfect.
Thank you. I have to make it simple so I can understand it myself. So.
Yes, correct. So we can all find those good food for our health from your company too, right? Any like protein, like green juice, like zeolite products. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And we work hard to make sure they're all processed so they're not denatured. And all of these things are just aiding the body. And listen, if you can go out there and eat the perfect diet, that's what I want you to do. But if you can't quite get there, then our supplements are designed to bridge that gap between where you're at and where you want to be. It gives you some convenience when maybe you can't just do it on your own.
And all the products from your company is organic, right?
Yes, ma'am, they are always.
So good choice for everyone.
Thank you for the endorsement, Perry.
Okay, so we'll see you again next time, Eddie. Have a great day, okay?
You as well. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.